Oncore Lesson 27. We are adding and subtracting whole numbers and decimals. And again, this is another review for you. That's why we keep it at the beginning of the year. But it's important because you'd be surprised, a lot of people forget this. These are very easy mistakes for people to make when you're adding and subtracting. They have a big long explanation at the beginning of this page and they call it regrouping. Let's ignore that. Let's just focus on the problem because it is review for you, and let's get started. First thing that I want to check, I always want to check in adding and subtracting, is I want to make sure that my decimals are lined up. That does not matter with multiplication and division, but it does matter with addition and subtraction. So again, make sure your decimals are lined up. Then I simply add. 8 plus 2 gives me 10, and I carry the 1 into the next column. This is a pretty simple concept, I would like to think. 9 plus 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13, carry the 1. Now, I have my decimal in line, and I bring it straight down. And then it's covered for me, right? Now, I have 6 plus 2 plus 1, which gives me 9. 6 plus 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And I'm left over here with 6 and 2, which is 8. And my answer is 89.3. And I'm going to add 0.30 because I do have a place value out there, and I already have a 0 in my problem, so I'm going to add it. We know that 89 and 3/10 is the exact same thing as 89 and 30/100, but we're going to write it out anyway. If I'm subtracting, I do the same thing. Make sure that your decimals are lined up, and then you can go from there. This is important because when you borrow, if your decimals are not lined up, and when you add, if your decimals are not lined up, you're not actually regrouping to bring 10 of these into the next column. Because 10 of these equals 1 of these. If your decimal's not lined up, you're not getting that. Same thing with borrowing. If you're borrowing from one whole to give you 10/10, that only works if your decimal's in the right place. If not, you could be borrowing 10 to give you 1, and that's not even remotely comparable to 10/10. Well, 1 is 10/10, but you get what I'm saying. 8 minus 1 gives me 7 because I know my decimals are lined up. I can even just bring that decimal down right at the beginning of the problem. Now I have 2 minus 4. I can't do that. I have to borrow, and this is where the decimal alignment is very important. I'm going to borrow from 8. Cross it out, put a 7. Carry my 1 over. Now I have 12 minus 4, which of course is 8. And 7 minus 9. Can't do that either. Boom. I'm going to bring from 4, bring 10 over, which means that I have 17 minus 9, and that gives me 8. And 3 minus 0 is 0, and I'm left with 38.87. I'm going to do 2 more of these, and then I want to show you something a little bit special in another video using the same exact worksheet, which I think might help out some of you. All right, so let's look at the next part. Over here, all my decimals are aligned, except I don't have one behind 52. So if I don't have a decimal, I'm going to add a decimal in the appropriate place, which is after my 1s. And I'm going to put in zeros just so I can keep that continuity, that straight line looking up and down. I'm adding 4 plus 0 plus 4 is 8, 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4, decimals coming straight down, and it's there. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 6 is 9, 8 plus 5 plus 1 gives me 14. And I'm left with 149 and 48/100. When you get into these problems, make sure that when you're setting it up, for example, 98 and 1/10, over here, I'm into the thousands. And I'm sorry, 100ths. I said 1/10. 100th, I'm into the thousands. So I want to make sure that I have 52, 0, 0, 3, and I'm going to add another 0 just so I keep all my place values. Adding them together, decimal is the same. Okay, go down through, make sure that we have 3, 1, 0, adding all these up. 8 plus 2 is 10, carry the 1, 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 1 is 5. And your answer is answered all the way out to the thousands because my problem is in the thousands, all right? When I come down here, evaluate using order of operations. That mnemonic device that we have, P-E-M-D-A-S. Remember, my multiplication, division go together, and addition, subtraction go together. PEMDAS. So, I have parentheses. Check. So I'm going to do those first. My parentheses, I'm going to reorder it just so it looks nicer on the video here. 235 and 152 thousandths plus 77 and 12 hundredths. I'm going to add a 0 for a place value. Now adding them together, I get 2. I get 7. 2 plus 0 is 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. 1 plus 1 is 2. Decimal comes down. 5 plus 7 is 12. 7 plus 3 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Now I take that answer and subtract 46 and 326 thousandths. I'm going to rewrite it over here. I know this is getting a little crowded on the paper, but it's important to show you work, right? 3, 12, and 272 thousandths minus 46 and 326 thousandths. Notice I didn't put the 4 under the 3 because that's not appropriate. I lined up the decimal, and I can even bring it down right at the get-go. I'm going to borrow to get started because I can't subtract 6 from 2. And I get 12 minus 6 is 6. 6 minus 2 is 4. I have to borrow again because I can't subtract 3 from 2. And I get 12 minus 3 is 9. 1 minus 6, I can't do it, so I subtract. 11 minus 6, though, is 5. I have to borrow again, and I get my correct answer of 265 and 946 thousandths.